Thank you, folks, and I want to thank you very much for being here this evening. Our representative,
Name.
I'm David Donaldson,
Okay, thanks.
but our representative, our precinct has passed, and so we have a void open position. However, on behalf of actually our area, I want to give a few things. The issues we have in O2 of Precinct 3, it is very interesting. And I don't know, I haven't seen the uses of our former member, Karen Perry, but more important was this, is that area, the traffic, the crime, and a multitude of sort of soft issues, but they're issues in itself, traffic, roads, lights, and pedestrian traffic going from point A to point B. They're very important, and it sort of disturbs me from time to time that, and I know Karen has been in the past and very adamant about a lot of those issues, but with the new traffic coming on, there are actually three positions there. One on the corner of Van Ness East and Connecticut Avenue, with the new student union building. There's going to be an awful lot of traffic, and I looked at looked at drawings and like that for the last few years. It's very interesting, and that's very important. On the opposite side, where the Intelsat used to be, on the corner of Connecticut, on the south side of Connecticut and Van Ness East, is interesting because now the building is up for lease or whatever. So the question is future, not point, is where direction to see the direction, the focus of not only what's going to go there, whether the building will be raised or reoccupied or construction going on. In the meantime, in the back there, okay, on that side of our area, we have a huge population of folks bicycling, driving, and so from Van Ness East and from VZ Street, the traffic coming out is going to be questionably an arduous task coming in and coming out. Besides the question of people in the Van Ness properties having occupation to coming home, the west side of Van Ness metro station, and we haven't heard, nor anybody's delivered, and I won't dwell on that, but we haven't delivered a message to the people of the Van Ness section, the Van Ness area, Precinct 34, how the timeline of, or has somebody negotiated, or with the state, but the council, or what's the real timeline and closing out Metro, Van Ness Metro going on the west side, and B, what is going to be what's going to happen for those folks that use the Metro? Will they have to be commuted to another location? So there's a lot of issues going on in that area right there that people in our precinct, in our area right there, are asking questions about. And unfortunately, Karen's not here right now, but and God bless her soul, but we need to have somebody addressing those issues in the interim before there's an election as to where we are going in Van Ness. And I'd like to have whoever is, actually Adam, I know you're on top of your game, but what's going on for the people in the Van Ness and that actually area where the commissioner is no longer there, as far as moving people forward, traffic, repairs, and
yes, I mean, I think, well, Metro's here to talk about the Metro, so they'll tell us more about that. I think traffic-wise, do we have? I mean, I don't know that it's something we've actively, in recent history, looked at, but we can try to get MPD and everyone at DDOT
Right.
to deal with that. I don't know if you have any ideas.
I mean, I think it all feels worse right now because of the construction vehicles at UDC and at Park Van Ness. It feels even more like a tunnel, a crowded tunnel than it does normally. I think we need to talk to MPD, and they've been invited to every meeting, and they were supposed to be here last month and today, and they're not. So I think, Adam's already written to them to make sure that we stay connected with them. But I agree with you. I met with a woman from WAMU the other day to hear, how we can connect with WAMU. And she said, you know what? I wish there were more places to eat, but honestly, the most important thing is pedestrian safety. And I thought that was interesting because, those people, most of the people at WAMU don't even live in this neighborhood, but she still felt that pedestrian safety was her number one issue. So I agree. I think it's an important issue, and probably MPD is our first recourse.
Yeah, that's probably right.
I want to thank you so much, okay? But more important is this, is that the representation we need to have in that precinct is very important to me. But more important is that if collectively, before it is somebody elected, if somebody would sort of, as a surrogate, to look into the issues, okay, between now and that time. But the most important issue, and actually very interesting issue of the people that live in that particular area, is UDC in itself. There was a time that the tennis courts, it means to be selfish to you, but the tennis courts used to be open to the people to use that, and I used it. However, it's been closed down primarily because of it's UDC property. Now, we understand the liability, the insurance liability and like that, but folks have addressed me from time to time saying, well, if it's not being used, why can't we use those tennis courts? And they really have upgraded them in the last 4 or 5 years. But the point I'm making is that it's something that should be addressed, and maybe it's not the time at the moment to talk about that, but something should be on the plate.
Yeah, so we've talked to them for the past couple of years, and they started this membership thing, which I think is ridiculous, where you can be a member to use the tennis court. Since it's taxpayer funded,
Indeed.
University, we should all have access to it like every other taxpayer-funded university in the entire country. I think the time to do that's in July when the new president starts. My first thing I'm talking to him about is negotiating a fair use agreement so that the public can use UDC without exorbitant costs and junk processes that take 14 weeks to borrow a room, because American and GW are easier to deal with in their private schools. So it seems ridiculous. So I think July is the key. I'm planning to talk to him, and hopefully whoever fills Karen's seat can help. And I know some of us are interested, so I think that's definitely on our list. But since they've had the interim president, it's kind of just been, there's no one to really talk to make a decision, but I think the time is a couple weeks.
Adam, thanks. As usual, you're always on top of your things. And
There are tennis courts at the Forest Hills Playground that are brand new, and I have basketball court for our community. I know it's a 3-block walk, but consider using those.
it's uncanny that Mrs. Gresham is that there's just going to be an election on August 22nd or 21st for a replacement of to replace you never can replace Karen Perry, but to fill that position. And what's interesting is that the election is going to be held here.
No, we're going to try to hold it down near you.
Right.
You.
It would be a good thing to have that, because proximity of understanding, questionably, actually in all respect, that precinct 34, that particular area is probably one of the highest voter turnouts
Yes.
in Ward 3. And so we'd like to see that come to fruition. And secondly is that, because it really makes sense for a lot of those folks, otherwise a lot of them don't really want to vote, would have to be bussed up here, if you get my drift. And that being said, I'd like to see that happen, and we'll leave it at that. And I understand you guys are going to have a Q&A about at the 11 evening for a memorial or session for Karen Perry, who'd been so many years.
Resolution, but I mean, I think you may know better than us. I think someone's going to try to do something better. I think, but
Well,
I'm happy to work with whoever.
Well, I'm thinking about more important is that between now and that election, because before the election, before that, it's another story. But before that, I'd really like to see something special for Karen, because she spent so many years with the ANC in this, and she's done a great job. Wouldn't you agree, folks? But more important, I miss her. But we, like Karen always said, are not one. We're all the group here, and moves our word forward. But I want to thank you so much, and I'd like you to think about, again, when that election is being held, to make it more convenient for that great voting block in Precinct 34. Thank you so much.
Thanks.